Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Mr. Bass Get Your Fish On live podcast show. Before we get started, make sure you click on Mr. Bass's channel and subscribe and click the notification buttons, hit all those likes, and also tell them that you saw them you're from Get Your Fish On. So Eric and Booster say hello
Yeah.
already. So first and foremost, Mr. Bass, how are you? What's been going on, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I am doing well too. I have been watching the channel this week. Congratulations. I've seen lots of good videos. Tell me a little bit about what's been happening over there on your channel this week.
Well, I got a plethora of boxes this week. You know, the old monthly tackle boxes. So I've been doing those videos. I got a couple of 6 cent Super Six sacks, and those are always great. And so what I do, I get the standard and the premium, and I usually do individuals, and then I do a comparison video because for some reason, some people like to see the comparisons better than just the individual
I'm one of those people.
videos. Yeah, yeah. So I do that and enjoy that. And then I got the old Champions Club box from Major League Fishing. It's the third month now that they've been doing that. So I've got that one. I posted it today. So that came just a couple hours ago. Posted that one. And that's been kind of an interesting concept. You know, they call it the Champions Club,
Yeah.
as though you're joining a club,
It's
and then they give you,
exclusive.
it's exclusive if you've got $35 or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But you know, they put a poster of a pro in there, and then they put an information card about another pro, and then they give you a card with some discount codes. Like this month, Rapala, TH Marine, Yeti, and YoloTech bundles that you can save on. They give you a code for Tackle Warehouse that I don't know if it saves you money or not. And then they have a video that you can watch, you know, a kind of like a Bass University video of a
Mm-hmm.
pro teaching you something that they say that's exclusive. And I haven't watched any of those videos yet the first 3 months, so I don't know if they're any good or not.
Are
But
you a subscriber to that Bass University by any
yeah, I
chance?
am. I am actually.
Yeah, Pete is a great guy.
He is a
Pete's
great guy.
yeah,
Well, I don't know him personally, but his the stuff's good. It's really good stuff.
really good. I
Yeah.
went fishing with Scott Siller one day. He's with MPFL, and as we were on the water, as we pulled up, Bobby Lane was there, and he and I mingle a lot. I guess that's the best way to
Yeah.
say it. And he thought I was going to film him, and he got all excited. He's like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you worked for Bass University." I'm like, yeah, that ain't me, man." And he's like, "Oh." So then we sat and started talking, and Scott put the boat in, and the other guy showed up and got on his boat, and we just sat and talked for like 15 minutes, and finally someone said, "You know, there's other people than you two that are working here," and I'm like, "Okay, let's." I'll see you later. And then we texted each other during the day asking if we were catching fish, could he come over to see us and that kind of stuff. So it was it was cool. It was really cool. What is your overall now that I'm kind of went way off topic here? What was your overall feeling about that? Do you like this this Champion Club box that you get from them?
uh, yeah. So far, I do. The you know, one of their promises is name brand lures, and that they absolutely have held to that all 3 months. Everything in the box has been very well recognized. I would call them premium lures for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
This month they had more soft plastics and hard baits, which kind of confused me. But they threw in some tungsten nail weights and some leader line. And I know fishing line is not popular in these boxes, but fishing line is incredibly expensive. And
Well,
I think sometimes guys don't, they just don't equate it with a good, you know, I want something cool in my box. I don't want fishing line.
so in your box though, you got fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon
Yeah, I
is
did.
extremely expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right here. It was its leader though. It's only 25 yards, but
yeah.
it's still excess tough line
Yeah, most
is
fluorocarbons, you
10.
don't get more than 25, 50 yards of it. It isn't meant to, you don't spool it on a rod. You use it as, leader. I don't even know this, and I apologize. Do you use braid or do you use mono?
I use braid on my spinning rods most of the time.
Okay.
And then on my bait casters, I use either fluorocarbon or mono.
Okay.
I I have a few techniques that I will use braid on my bait casters, but I don't like braid on a bait caster. I know a lot of guys swear by it,
I do.
but I just don't like the way it casts. And so anyway,
Yeah. It's all personal preference, to be honest. Down
yep.
here we have so much lily pads and that kind of stuff. I use I think it's the only my bait casters. It's the only time I use 40-pound braid. Everything
Mm,
else is like 10 or 12 pound. I try to go as light as possible just because it makes life a lot easier for me. And
sure.
usually everything is braid for me. Unless I go saltwater fishing, then I use braid, and then I use a leader to it, a fluorocarbon leader.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
right.
I think in the case of saltwater fish, I think they see the line a little bit better than, no offense, stupid bass. So,
Yeah.
you know,
The water's a lot clearer out there too.
I mean, we have a real issue here locally that our we have a lot of people that pump their I hate to say this, their shit into the lagoon. And I
Oh,
mean
really?
literally their septic tanks.
Jeez
And
Louise.
yeah, and we
That should
get
be.
we get we get horrible red tides and fish kills and stuff from people spraying their keeping, it's really important in Florida to keep your lawn green. I mean, during the summer,
Oh
it
man.
rains every day, excluding here recently. So the rain usually does a pretty good job. But we have a lot of people that spend a whole bunch of money to live on the water, and they want to keep their grass looking as pristine as possible. So they come out and they spray and spray and spray. And if you can watch them spray, and they're literally spraying the water too, and all of
Yeah.
that
Oh,
starts to add up, and then we have fish kills or algae blooms, and it usually happens at some point during the summer. We have a red tide or a brown tide or
mm,
whatever, and
mm.
it's done so much damage over the years that it's just not much fun anymore, unfortunately. So
Wow, that's a shame.
yeah, I mean, my boy Jeff Hammer's on here. He fishes. He does videos in the lagoon, and he would be the first one to tell you. Other than his most recent video, we don't have grass on the seafloor anymore. It's just the the water's so stained, the sunlight doesn't get to the bottom, and we're only fishing in a foot and a half of water in most cases, maybe 2 feet,
Wow.
and it's just that bad. And the sun doesn't get through it. We don't have any emotion, no current that comes through the lagoon. It's all sorts of issues that have all piled up, and we've just made, as Jeff just said, they blow their yard clippings straight into the water. It's a bunch of stuff that now we're paying for. And we used to have, like 10, 12, 15 years ago, I used to go out with a guy named Dave Rogers. He's the first person that got me into radio. He and I did a radio show, just Dave and I. It was called Hog Wild, or AAA Hog Wild Fishing Show or something like that. I don't even remember what it was. But Dave was a guide, and he and I would go
Huh.
fishing, and it wasn't uncommon to catch 10 or 15, 30 to 50-inch redfish in a day.
Wow.
And now you go out there, and if you can find one, you're really doing good.
Really?
So, you know, it's it's a horrible thing. I mean, in all honesty, it's one of the negative things about the fishing down here. But that's salt water. You go inshore, and we have algae and that kind of stuff, but not to the level of the saltwater side. So, you know,
Hmm.
it's a shame. It's just a shame how we've taken care of certain things. Okay, so let me go through everybody. Everyone's already been saying hello. So Herb, Jan, Jeff Hammer, Matthew, Hank Snow is in here. Hank Snow just gave me some whole bunch of jigs. Look at these babies, man. They're in bags right now, though. Custom hair, hand-tied hair jigs.
Oh man, hair jigs.
They are sexy. Shannon, the little B, Booster, a whole bunch of people. Eric, all you guys, thanks. Frank, who's Duncan, N5 KDA. He's from Southwest Mississippi. Whole bunch of people saying hello. So thank you, everybody, for being on. Make sure you go to the Mr. Bash channel for sure over here, because it's backwards for me, and subscribe and do all that. However, so let's get into it. Did you do your homework first and foremost?
I did do some homework.
Look at that. That looked like you were not telling the truth. I did not fart.
I did some homework. My problem is I waited till the last day to do it. So
that's all right. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 professional fishermen. You have your list. I have my list.
Yep.
Let me just say right off the bat, no one's list is wrong.
Right.
No one's list is wrong. But we want to hear who your list is. Now, I have a couple people that... I have two people that started us off, Booster and Jim Richard, both they commented, so I know theirs. So I might start with theirs, and then
I'll tell you one thing about old Booster, man. He is a YouTube creator's dream, because I know he's one of your subscribers that came over and joined my channel, sub to my channel after we started getting together. And that guy, there he is. His dog ate it, right? He watches all the videos. He participates. You know, he comes on the live chats, and he has good content that he participates in the comments. And then every video, it looks like he watches and he leaves really good comments too, man. And I really appreciate that. He's just an awesome subscriber. If you're a YouTube creator, man, a guy like Booster is it's a dream for me.
So Booster came over to the house. He was going to watch a rocket launch. I invited him over. He knows way too much. I love him to death. That man knows he knows like the back end business of lures. So
awesome.
I drove him up. He met my little boy, and then I took him over to the private pond, and then we fished. We didn't even get to fish very long, but I'm like, I'll be honest. I said to him, "Look, Hammer's making fun of me." I said, "Put on a lizard. Just do me a favor. Put on a lizard. I'm not telling you wrong here." He's like, "I'm gonna fish this. I'm gonna do this." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just telling you. I'm just giving you a helpful hint." We had an absolute blast. I kicked his ass. But I said, awesome. Just do me a favor. Just do this. So I'm looking forward to actually. I'm hoping that I have a trip kind of somewhat planned with a couple pros, and I'm hoping that he can come down from, I think he's in Georgia, and come down and participate, hopefully. Because we both want to go fish the headwaters, and I have a friend that said, come on with me, blah, blah, blah. So it's in the works. Sweet. So it's a good one too, for sure. So Eric said something. Eric, sorry, I don't have a top 10 favorite fisherman. Only have a favorite 2, and that's Mr. Bass and Get Your Fish On. I will say, kissing ass will get you a lot on this channel.
It will. It will. Great. Awesome, Eric. You're the man. That's for sure.
So let me go through Boosters first, and then Jim's. And then let's go through ours after that. Will that work?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so for Booster, here's his. He says, "Phew, here's my list. Not for him at all time. Roland Martin, KVD, Rick Clunn, Larry Nixon, Bill Dance, Denny Brower, Jacob Wheeler, Jimmy Houston, Hank Parker, and David Dudley."
David Dudley.
I texted. I'll be honest. I texted David Dudley that someone nominated him for the top 10. That's true story. Jim Richards put Rick Clunn, KVD, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Denny Brower, Hank Parker, Larry Nixon, Aaron Martins, Skeet Reese, and Gary Klein.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure we have some that are the same.
Yeah, I've got a lot of similarities with those guys.
Okay, I would love to hear yours, and at the same, if there's someone that we agree that I have on my list, once you tell me why you think they're on theirs, and then I'll say, oh no, he's on my list too, and here's why I put him on. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Now this is in no particular order. Let's make sure that's clear.
I'm going to give a caveat here. Mine is in no particular order except for number one.
Mine too.
I have a number one that I think hands down is number one, and I'll explain my thinking behind it. When this is subjective, obviously, and it's just for fun, and it's not really making a statement, good or bad, about whether I like an angler or anything like that. It's just looking at what I think the evidence shows, and it's hard to do. It's very hard to say best angler of all time for a couple of reasons. One is time has not ended yet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob Wheeler, I think, is one of those guys that ultimately might prove to be the very best at some point. But I think there's still time out there that he's got to prove. And then you've got a guy like, say, Bill Dance or Roland Martin, who their fishing career is technically over.
Yes.
And then you've got the old timers versus kind of the mid group versus the brand new guys.
Yes.
And can you really compare them against each other? I think that's very, very hard to do because the pro fishing world of Roland Martin is 180 degrees different than the pro world of Jacob Wheeler is today.
I agree.
And so it's like comparing apples to oranges, quite frankly. So when I was going through this, I asked myself, as of today, entire body of work, who do I think is the best? And there are some guys that are still young that probably are better fishermen than maybe some of these older time guys even. But I didn't put them on the list because I think they've still got a ton of career left. And I think they've still got a lot more to prove, even though they've made some amazing inroads up to this point. So for me, my number one all-time pro fisherman is still Kevin Van Dam. I think he's the best. If you look at there's several things going on here. One is incredibly long career. You take a guy like Hank Parker. Hank Parker maybe could have had as good a record as KVD, but he quit, after, I don't know, like 10, 12 years. He just quit, and decided I'm going to be at home with family. And he had enough business things in place that he didn't need to keep fishing tournaments. What if he'd fished for 25 or 30 years, like a KVD? Boy, it really makes you wonder. KVD right now has been a pro for 31 years, I believe. He's got 121 top tens, I think. Now, my numbers might be a little off, but
I think you're dead on.
121 top tens, and he's got 28 major wins. We're not talking even opens. We're talking elite level tournaments, 28 of them. He's won the Classic. Yeah, 4 times he's won the Classic. He's won AOY. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
6 Angler of the Years.
6. I've got 7 here. I've got 7-time AOY.
Is it?
And 4 Classics, according to Bass Fan. You can look this stuff on Bass Fan.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude's an animal, and people might say, "Well, he's Wheeler's kicking his butt right now." Okay, but 121 top tens, 28 majors. Here's the other thing that I think I've got a stat here for the top money makers. See if I can find this real quick. He is so far. I mean, there's nobody even. I mean, not even. It's insane. He has won almost $7 million in tournament winnings.
Yeah.
Dang, I hope I can find this.
I think he's
And the
3
next
million
clo-
above second place.
Yeah, and the next closest guy, yeah, it's like barely 4 million. He's dominated in every area, not just fishing, but in tournament winnings, and then of course you don't ever know as far as private sponsorship money, but he's got to have dominated that as well his whole career. So to me, there is no question he is by far the number one angler of all time.
I agree completely. There's some people have say Roland Martin over him. Bob Witt said Bob Witt. Well, let me just say Shannon Kirby said Edwin Evers, Ott Defoe, Greg Hackney, Mark Rose, Jacob Wheeler, Skeet Reese, Jimmy Houston, Aaron Martins, and Gary Klein. He didn't even put KVD in there. Hold on, let me make sure that was right. Shannon, what the heck are you thinking? I'm joking, of course. Bob Witt says, and he has them in order: Scott Martin, Jimmy Houston, David Fritz, Larry Nixon, Jacob Wheeler, Bill Dance, Denny Brower, KVD at 3, Rick Clunn, Roland Martin.
Wow. Wow.
Matthew said my list would be Roland Martin, KVD, Jimmy Houston, Chris Zaldane, Ott Defoe, Edwin Evers, Bill Dance, Rick Clunn, Mike Iaconelli, and Scott Martin. And then Hank Snow said KVD, Rick Clunn, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Denny Brower, Hank Parker, Aaron Martins, Larry Nixon, Jacob Wheeler, and Mark Davis. And Shannon said you said 10. So, hold on. I can add these. Why am I reading these when I can just put them on the screen? What a dumbass I am. So, yes. Yeah. I agree completely. In terms of people being in this industry for this long, I'll be honest, Kevin Van Dam's one of the best people to interview when he has time. Now, he is continuously busy, but good dude, great father, fantastic husband. He loves his boys. He loves those 2 boys, man. I can tell you that. He was so proud when both those when they graduated and both went to college. That was one of the things that he and I have talked about. I saw him years ago at the Classic, and he was rolling up his boat, and he's like, "Chapman, come help me!" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever you need." And then I think I came over, kissed his feet, and then did whatever he asked me to do. That's a joke, though. One of the best guys, probably the busiest man in bass fishing. Probably the busiest man.
And really, this is why I really think that right now in his career, I think he's spending way more time and energy working on promoting and helping build the Major League Fishing business and working for his sponsors, and less time fishing. And I really think if he were putting 100% effort into his fishing the way he did, 10 years ago, that he would probably be dominating the Major League Fishing right now. It's just it's a lower priority for him. I mean, I'm speaking for him. Obviously, I'm just guessing, but I really think the fishing itself he loves, and he loves to compete, and he loves to do that. But he doesn't get any time to practice and prepare the way most of his competition does. He's just so busy.
I think his fire still burns like anybody out there. He really does want to win. I think, though, he now has a lot more priorities or sponsorship priorities that never had happened years ago. I think that nowadays, if you've ever been fishing with, because I've been on the boat with Kevin, the one problem that fishing with Kevin that nobody else has to deal with on the face of the earth is when you're on his boat,
chase boats.
There's 40 to 50 people following you.
Yeah,
and
everywhere he goes.
Everywhere. And not only does he have to fish, but he has to tell people where he's going next. So he has to he's the only person that has to crowd maintenance as he's trying to catch fish. And I think that
Yeah,
probably has
I
a little
saw
bit to
him at
do
a
with it.
classic. Yeah, I was at a classic one time, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe all the boats following him everywhere.
Yeah.
It was just insane.
I mean,
And he's just as cool as a cucumber. He doesn't let it upset him. It's pretty amazing.
yeah,
You
he
know, the
go.
money thing though, to me is one of the criteria, but it's definitely not the only criteria. And so, like I thought the David Dudley thing was interesting. Is David Dudley a hammer? Absolutely. He's an amazing angler. Absolutely. And believe it or not, he is number 2 of the all-time, according to Field and Stream. There's an article, you can go look it up, guys. It's a pretty good article by Field and Stream, and it's called "Meet the 10 Highest Earners in Professional Bass Fishing," and it was written just about a year ago. So as of a year ago, David Dudley was actually number 2 behind KVD. KVD was 6.8 million. David Dudley 4 million.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
David
then
Dudley's a fantastic angler.
and he's won a lot. He's
Yeah.
won
Angler of the
he's
years.
yeah, he really has. So you can't. He's not a bad selection by any means. He'd be hard to argue with. Who do you think's number 3 of all-time money winners behind Dudley?
I would think it'd be.
This one kind of surprised me as well.
I thought it was Skeet Reese. Is it Skeet Reese?
Think Robo Worm.
Is it? Well, Aaron Martin's on my top 10.
Aaron Martin's. He's number 3, 3,795,000. So just under 4 million. Pretty
And one
impressive.
of the smartest people you could ever meet about fishing.
I know it. He's like a scientist, a fish scientist.
Well, I mean, you only get like 15 minutes of greatness, and then a bird will fly by and he'll talk about that bird. Then you'll get that bird for 15 minutes, and then 15 more minutes of greatness.
Yeah.
Aaron's one of
He's
the best
also-
guys in the whole world.
He's also really handling this cancer thing and just amazing. It's just amazing to watch him deal with that adversity, and just really, he is a top-notch guy, and he's definitely someone that young aspiring anglers should look up to for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to run through these other top 10 earners just for the fun of it, because it's so interesting to me real quick, and then we can get back on track here. Number 4 is Greg Hackney, 3.7 million.
Wow.
Number 5 is Edwin Evers.
That doesn't surprise me.
3.6 million. Number 6 is Rick Clunn, 3.4 million. Then Skeet Reese at 3.4. Then Mike Iaconelli at 3.1. Then Alton Jones, 3 million. That
Wow.
kind of surprised me.
That one surprises me.
Yeah, it did me too. And then number 10, Scott Martin, 2.96 million.
And probably made that much on YouTube.
Yeah, no doubt. The guy, interesting. Several of these guys are also amazing marketers as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's your top money earners. And of that list, I had 2 of those guys. No, I think I had 3. I had 3 of those guys on my top 10. So anyway, so number 1, I got KVD. Number 2, I've got Rick Clunn. And again, these can kind of interchange, but I really feel like he is in the top tier. He's either number 2, number 3, number 4, somewhere around in there for a couple of reasons. His stats are insane. Mm-hmm. One of his stats that nobody even mentions is how many years I don't have it, but he's just he's like the Energized Bunny. He just goes and goes and goes and goes, and he's got to be the oldest guy on tour fishing, I would think. And he's fished 472 tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
He's been to 32 classics, and he's won 4 classics. He's been, and get this, think of this. He's fished 472 tournaments, and how many times do you think he's been in the money in 472 tournaments? 306 times. 64% of his tournaments, he cashes a check. 64%. That is insane. I mean, it's just mind blowing to be in the money almost 65% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, because he's kind of older and he's not had, you know, the last 5 years or 6, 7, 8 years has not been constantly winning, I think people kind of just forget this dude has dominated this sport for years and years and years. He's had 16 first places, 14 second places, 12 third places, 123 top tens. 25% of all of his tournaments, he's been in the top 10.
And I think
we're not talking coffee can tournaments here.
No.
We're talking major elite tournaments. 25% he's been in the top 10. 200 of his tournaments, 192, he's been in the top 20. And 245, he's been in the top 30. It's insane. And he's another guy like Aaron Martens. We want to talk about insanely, I mean, he's just analyzing everything about fishing. He's a fish scientist. You know, he's amazing. He really is. And, you know, he just won, was it like 2 years ago? He won an elite event.
Yeah, 3 years ago. In over here in Palatka. I was there covering it. The 5 bass he brought in the last day, you know, they have those giant bags.
Yeah.
So they had a place for media to go in. And I think Mike and I were the only media people that were there. He brought his boat in, says hello. He's like, "Hey, Steve, blah, 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 blah." He opens up the bag and he starts shoving these fish in. He had so much pounds of fish that final day. The bag, the fish's heads were sticking out and tails were hanging out because they were so big. He had like 33 or 34 pounds on the final day. And it was like, oh my gosh. It was awesome. He's on now, I will be honest. Is he in the top 10? He's in my top 10 for sure. But he's in my top 10 because he's a legend and an icon in the industry. When they start talking about, there was a rumor last year that Bass was actually thinking about giving him a legendary exemption because he didn't qualify to make the Classic. And having him inside the Classic meant more people would show up. You are in the top 10. You are an icon then. I mean, it kind of sucks he didn't qualify, but they were still trying to make it so there was a way for him to get into this year's Classic. And that's just unbelievable. 4 Classic championships, 32 Classic appearances, and he's just everything. He's an icon. He's an icon. So I'm right with you. We're 2 for 2 here.
Absolutely. Okay, my number 3 is Roland Martin.
Roland Martin's on my list too.
And again, he dominated for so long. And a lot of guys don't even remember because I think his last tournament was in the late 80s or early 90s. I don't even know when it was. I read it somewhere recently, but he hasn't really fished a major tournament in a lot of young fans' lifetime. So it's easy to kind of overlook him, I think. But you can't overlook the fact that the guy, he's fished so many tournaments, 306 total tournaments. He was in 25 Classics. And he's in the money 30% of the time. 100, well, more than that, 193 out of 306. But see, just compare that to Rick Clunn. Rick Clunn's been in the money 65% of the time, where Roland's been in I guess they're right there. 19 first place finishes, 19 second place finishes, 6 third place, 102 top 10. So literally 33% of his tournaments, he's been in the top 10, 143 top 20s, 168 top 30s. I read quite a few articles about him while I was kind of researching this today, and during his heyday, he was crushing everybody. If you fished against him, he was going to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
and he really had that reputation of just crushing the competition.
He was
Now,
named a few years ago. He was named the greatest angler in a survey. I don't know.
yeah,
Booster said it was on Jay Kumar's thing on ESPN. So, I mean,
I read an article, and it was a really good article on BASS about him, and the guy on there called him the most dominant angler, not the best angler.
yeah,
And that's kind of, maybe that's semantics, but in any case, he's definitely got to be in your top 10. I'd say he's got to be in your top 5, but he's definitely in the top 10.
for sure.
He's a pioneer, and he's amazing.
I'm right with you. We're 3 for 3. We agree on this so far.
Now, what's interesting is when you get these older guys, their career winnings are so low just because those tournaments didn't pay jack.
Yeah, $10,000. Some of them were $1,000.
Yeah, yeah. So his lifetime career winnings is only barely $1 million.
Yeah,
but that's why I think the number, the dollar thing is subjective, really.
Yeah, you can't really go, other than Kevin Van Dam. You can't really go by money earnings. Kevin Van Dam you can, because he's been in this for 30 years, and just from day one he's been one of the most dominant anglers of all time.
That's right.
And you want to know what? It isn't even just domination in professional fishing. He puts his name to something, that thing sells.
Yeah, that's a whole different criteria, but you're
I know.
Right. I mean, it's part of it. It's definitely part of it.
Okay, number 4 for you, or the next one. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, the next one I had was Bill Dance.
Yeah, Daddy.
Yeah, and Bill Dance, he was one of the very first ones to get in the game fishing, bass fishing Hall of Fame. He's in the game fishing Hall of Fame, the freshwater Hall of Fame, the bass fishing Hall of Fame. He caught the very first bass in BASS history. And it's pretty interesting because very first tournament, he literally went straight off the ramp and stopped and cast and caught a fish, and he caught that fish before a lot of guys had even taken off.
Mm-hmm.
So he's another one where if he had fished for as many years as KVD, there's no telling what he could have done. But his TV show became so popular, and I guess he made a business decision at some point that he was just gonna not fish tournaments anymore. But he had 3 AOYs. He won a ton of tournaments, and he was another one of those guys that if he was fishing, you had to watch him. He was probably going to win. And as you've told me, he's like the number 1 most influential angler when it comes to sales and marketing, right?
Yeah, there's nobody who sells a product. There's no one even close. No offense to KVD. You can put Bill Dance on the lure and you put KVD on the lure, and like 70% of the people will buy it because Bill Dance says it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
which is why, as an 80-year-old man, you still see him on all kinds of products all over Bass Pro Shops and everywhere else you go.
He's the most recognizable professional angler on the face of the earth.
That's right. I'd say he is, and that's why you can't ignore him. I mean, and he's got the fishing record to back it up, but I think he's got to be in the top 10 talk for sure.
For sure. I'm with you there on that one.
Okay, the next one I had was Hank Parker.
I have him on my list too.
And he's another one that he made a family decision to stop fishing really when he was kind of at the pinnacle of his career. And the guy, his record's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And he's another one of those, as a fishing fan, I say to myself, man, what if he had fished 30 years? Mm-hmm. How many more tournaments would this guy have won? He won 2 Bassmaster Classics. There's only 4 people, I'm pretty sure I got this right, there's 4 anglers that have won more than one. Rick Clunn, KVD, Hank Parker and our Auburn boy.
Yeah,
What's his
Jordan
name?
Lee.
Yeah, Jordan Lee. To my knowledge, there's only 4 that have won more than one classic. That's an incredible achievement in and of itself. But he's got 2 classics under his belt, and he's he's the one. He's the first one that they say won the Grand Slam of competitive bass fishing. Uh, of course, this was back then. We don't even consider this to be the, you know, the term Grand Slam of competitive bass fishing. I'm really not that familiar with, but in his day, back in 1983, it was the Classic, the AOI, and the BASS Super Bass Tournament.
Yep.
He won all 3 of them, so he was the first one to do that. The trifecta.
So Hank Parker cashed in 75% of every tournament he ever fished in.
And that is just an amazing, amazing stat. I've got 76% according to his Wikipedia page. Hank fished in the money 76% of BASS tournaments. And that's why.
That alone, that's mind-boggling. Imagine 3 out of every 4 tournaments you make a check.
Yeah.
Why would you stop?
I know. I mean, it wasn't about what, who knows why he stopped, but
the coolest thing about him, about Hank Parker, and I think it says this on his Wikipedia. I don't know this for sure because I didn't look at Wikipedia. He attempted to qualify for the NASCAR Busch Series.
Yeah. Yeah, that is right.
What professional fisherman thinks, oh, yeah, I think I can drive with Jeff Gordon and those guys? I mean, really, come on. The balls you got to have to do that is ridiculous.
No doubt. No doubt. He's an interesting dude. He is an interesting dude.
I think I've only interviewed Hank one time. Do you know that?
Really?
Really? That's one of the few people I have a hard time getting in touch with.
Interesting.
Okay, next person.
Okay, now my next few are going. This is where I think my tipping point is going to be where I start to have people really disagree with me. I mean, there's going to be portions that absolutely do agree, and there's going to be others that think I'm nuts here. And part of this is because I'm looking at the whole overall record, and right off the bat, you're going to notice I have very few what you might call current anglers that are actually fishing now. Yeah. I got KVD in there, and I've got 1 or 2 more, but that's it. And the reason is because I'm saying best of all time, and I really think these young guys that are probably going to pass some of these guys, they're going to pass some of these guys in their career. I just don't think they're there yet. So my next one, and to tell you the truth, this guy was not on my initial list. It wasn't until I started examining stats, fish tournament stats, that I decided to put him in, Jimmy Houston. Now, some guys would say absolutely Jimmy Houston, but I know there's other guys who say no way. But when you really look at his stats and compare it to the other tournament fishermen out there, I think it's easy to make a case that he could be in the top 10 and probably should be. He fished 246 total tournaments, 15 classics. He also, in the money, 113 out of 246 times. That's a very large figure. 44 top 10s, 77 top 20s, 108 top 30s. And he's another one of these marketing genius guys, I'd say. I mean, he's done very well financially, and he's had a lot of loyal companies that have supported him over the years, and and the only reason they would do that is he's making them money.
Yes.
And then he's into quite a YouTuber as well now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he qualifies. I think you could probably put enough other guys in the top 10 where he might get squeezed out, but he's in my top 10.
Yeah. Not in my top 10.
Okay.
But
there's another one that may not.
He's on my notables. That's the God's honest truth.
All right. Here's another one that may not be in your top 10. He definitely was not in my top 10 until I started really digging through the numbers. Jay Ellis.
Yes.
And
Great
I
angler.
guarantee you there's guys that are saying, what are you talking about? We haven't seen a lot with him lately, even though he is still fishing pro tournaments. He's been a pro for 34 years, so 3 years longer than KVD. He has been in 75 top tens. 75 top tens. That's pretty impressive. He's had 5 wins. He's won 2.42 million. He won a classic. I think that's important. He's fished 16 classics, and he also fished 11 Forest Wood Cups.
Yep.
He also, and this is another big critical component, I think, to deciding whether a guy really qualifies for the top 10. He has won AOI, let's see, FLW AOI twice, Bassmaster AOI once, and then, of course, the champion, the classic champion once. And the AOI is very, very hard to do, especially to do it 3 different times.
Yep.
So I feel like his record is what sets him apart. Is he super flashy? Is he super commercial? Is he no? But he is a stick, and I think he's one of the very best sticks out there. Although he wasn't on my initial list, which is interesting. In fact, several of these were not on my initial list, to tell you the truth. It wasn't until I started digging in that I started changing my mind.
Jay Ellis, great angler, fantastic angler. Didn't make my list, but I probably have some newer school people on mine.
Yeah, right.
But I think we agree on one person for sure. So that's all right. That's what this is about. This is about a friendly debate, and that's what everyone should be. By the way, everyone, if you want to put your top 10 on the chat, I will post it on there and also tell what it is. We had a really funny comment. I got to find it and put it back up there. Somebody said, I didn't know that Scott, oh, here it is, John Smith. I did not know that Scott and Roland Martin were related for a long time until I saw a video of them fishing together. Best comment of the night so far.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So everyone, put your thing
crazy.
on. Put your top 10 on there and tell us who you think yours is. Okay, next for you.
And Scott Martin's not on my top 10, but
not mine either.
He's one that people could argue. I definitely think he's in the top 20 probably, or 25.
Oh, for
sure. But he's not my top 10. Okay, here's one that was definitely not on my top 10 at first, and same thing. When I really started looking at the numbers, the money he's earned plus his tournament record, it really kind of blew me away, and that's Mike Iaconelli.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some guys just don't like Iaconelli, but I'm not one of those. But he's the only angler to have won the Bassmaster Classic and AOI and Bass Nation Championship.
Yep.
He's got a total of 251 tournaments under his belt. He's been in 20 classics, and he's won a classic.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the money 173 out of 251 times. That's also a huge percentage. He's got 68 top 10s, 111 top 20s, 131 top 30s, and these, of course, are all elite level tournaments. And if you go over to Major League Fishing stats, they combine all of his winnings, 3.207 million in winnings. And I would also say he has got to be the top, if not one of the very top, right there with KVD as far as money earners total when you compare tournament winnings and sponsorship dollars.
For sure.
Dude is, when it comes, he is a businessman. Like, he's in the top 1 or 2. He just really is. He's amazing.
Yeah. He was in my top 10. I moved him out today for one person.
Okay.
I'll tell you that later.
All right. I've only got 2 left here.
Okay.
Next is, and this is one that I really waffled on. I'm still not 100% sold on this, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Gary Klein.
Okay.
Gary Klein's been a professional fisherman for 40 years.
Yep.
He's been the AOI twice. He's had 10 tour level wins, 94 top 10s, and 161 top 20s. I don't know how many classics he's been in because I couldn't find that information readily. But when you compare him to the others statistically, I think you can definitely make a case that he should probably be in the top 10. He's not my favorite choice by any means, and someone could easily persuade me to probably swap him out with someone else. But I think after 40 years of consistently competing, you can't really ignore that fact. And then, of course, now he's a major influencer in the tournament fishing world by being one of the co-founders of Major League Fishing. Mm-hmm. And that does matter. I actually had two other guys that were fishermen but weren't what you'd call just lights out tournament fishing that were probably kind of on my honoree list that could also be argued as part of the top 10 anglers. If you ask yourself, as part of the definition of the top 10 anglers, their influence on the sport. And there are guys that were professional bass fishermen that for whatever reason maybe didn't have incredible careers number wise, but they did so much to move the sport forward, like Forrest Wood, Ray Scott, and others out there. I didn't put them on my list, but they definitely could be in there if you're not talking just tournament winning bass fishermen.
Both those guys are on my list.
Okay, great. And I don't say they shouldn't be. And that's why I brought them up. They're kind of on my honoree list for sure.
Yeah.
Because what they did for the sport, you can't argue it,
Yeah.
Okay,
who's your last person?
My last person, and I kind of do this with some reservation because I still think he's dominating right now, but does he have a long enough record at the moment to really be considered in the top 10? Still probably not, even though he's the dominant guy right now, Jacob Wheeler.
I agree.
I put him in there because he's the dominant guy right now. He does, out of his 35 top 10s, he's won 10 of them.
I know.
So, I mean, that's insane. And this dude he can win any circuit, any format. I mean, everything when you look at him, everything about him tells you he's going to be one of the greatest. He is going to be one of the greatest of all time. I still think it's probably a little too early to say he's in the top 10, but I put him in the top 10 anyway, just because of the way he's dominating like crazy right now.
I agree with you completely on Wheeler. I think I think Wheeler in his first 7 years, there's only been one person who's been more dominant in the first 7 years, and that was Kevin Van Dam. And Wheeler's done better than Kevin Van Dam in his first 7 years of being a professional angler. So it's like what Wheeler's done is ridiculous. But Wheeler's doing it on a different level because of electronics and things like that.
Yeah.
I actually think that Wheeler probably will end up being in that GOAT conversation with KVD, but while Kevin Van Dam is fantastic on his sonars and all that other stuff, forward-facing sonar, Jacob Wheeler does it 10 times what KVD is doing.
And not only that, if Jacob Wheeler stays on the trajectory he's been on for 10 years now, guess what? He's going to make more money over time than KVD ever did in his career.
For sure.
He's going to surpass him. But he's still got a long way to go. I mean, 2.37 versus it's almost $7 million. That's, almost a $5 million differential there.
Yeah.
But he's insane. He is just like Roger says, he's a phenomenon.
He's unbelievable. He's really unbelievable.
No doubt.
So
all right, so let's hear yours.
So I had Kevin Van Dam, I had Jacob Wheeler, I had Forrest Wood, And the reason I had Forrest Wood is because he was he started Ranger Boats, founder of the FLW Tour, outdoor legend, and really bass fishing wouldn't be bass fishing without Forrest Wood. So
I totally agree. I totally agree.
I had Ray Scott too, because he founded Bass. He introduced catch and release in bass fishing tournaments. I have one of his books right over there that he autographed to me, and then he autographed one for Thomas. Bass Boss, which is a fantastic book. And more importantly, he made all the anglers wear a kill switch. And,
wow.
It's little things that he's done for the bass fishing community that I just think you got to have them. I had Bill Dance on my list for sure.
Yep.
I had Rick Clunn, Hank Parker. This one's going to surprise you. I had Ott Defoe in my top 10.
Wow, that does surprise me.
He won again today. He's won the Red Crest. He's won a Bassmaster Classic championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's checked off everything. And to be honest, he gets a little extra love because he's my boy. He kicked Mike Iaconelli off the list today, to be honest, today.
Okay.
And then I had Roland Martin, and then my last one is Aaron Martins. I mean, he's had 3 Angler of the Year awards. Here's one. He's in 241 tournaments. He's been in the money 183 times.
Yeah.
9 first places, 71 top 10s, $3 million in earnings, 4-time runner-up at the Classic. And if he is healthy, he can kick your butt anywhere in the country fishing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had him on my runner-up list, and I really waffled between him and Gary Klein. And you could talk to me about another 30 seconds, and I probably would take Gary Klein off and put Aaron in his place. I mean, it's that close. He's dominant.
Aaron is amazing.
And just think how different it would be. He had that run of second place finishes. It was insane how many second places he had. And if he had won those, oh my goodness, his numbers would be even more astronomical.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
I had 3 people that were notables. I don't think we're anywhere without Doug Hannon. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wonder how many guys even know who he is on here. But you are right, man. The old professor.
I used to have him on the show all the time.
Yeah,
before he passed.
He's. I just watched one of his videos the other day. I mean, it's terrible on the TV. The photography. I mean, it's just so bad. But the content is great. It's
unbelievable,
fantastic. Yeah, that's an interesting one to be on there. I like that. I like that pick, actually.
So then my other 2 were Denny Brower and Larry Nixon. I think both those guys easily could fit in the top 10. Anywhere could probably kick a couple people out, but overall, I think that is it. Now, if you had to go top 4, the 4 on the Mount Rushmore. Do we agree on Kevin Van Dam as on that list?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
Here's where it gets fun. Where do we go next? I think we both could probably agree Bill Dance.
Yes, I would agree with that. He's in the top 4.
I think so too. Here's where it gets weird. I kind of feel like Rick Clunn should be in that top 4.
He's in mine. I
don't think you can. Rick Clunn is just. I know you have this "what has he done for me lately" kind of mentality.
Yeah.
He's getting older, but if you look at what he did, even just winning 2 years ago, he won a tournament. It was the oldest person to ever win a Bassmaster Elite tournament when he won at Palatka. And he didn't just win, he flat out killed it. I mean, it was awesome to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm telling you, trying to do something at age 70, anything at age 70 is so much harder than at age 30 or even age 40. I mean, I'm not 70 yet, but I'm just telling you, it's an amazing accomplishment to continue to be able to compete the way he does at his age.
And then
Almost nobody can do that. Almost no one can do that. You know, Denny Brower, you know, is back. He would still be fishing today if he didn't have so many back problems.
I agree.
But
Yeah.
this is what happens. You know, you get older and your body just can't keep up. And he's defying the odds. He really is.
And then my last
He's definitely in my top 4.
And my last one on my Rushmore would be, as everyone keeps mentioning, Roland Martin. I don't think you can take
Mine
away
too.
anything from Roland Martin.
I got the exact same top 4 as you do. Yeah.
Booster said Andy Morgan dominated FLW the last 4 years before FLW went up. Andy Morgan's absolutely retarded good. He is unbelievable good.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, see, here's so I'm gonna stir the pot here, and I apologize right now. The problem, I don't know how to say this without being really smarty pants. The one thing about the separation for me for FLW and Bass is a big difference, especially before FLW got purchased by Major League Fishing. As a media person, FLW was, you know, down here, and Bass was way up here. The anglers that were on the Elite Series were noticeably more successful than a majority of the FLW guys. No offense to David Dudley, but David wasn't getting the respect that he deserved because he fished FLW. And so that's kind of a little, somewhat of a minor problem for me, if that makes any sense.
I mean, that there's truth to that. There has always been this kind of stigma as it relates to the FLW guys that they're just not the elites. BASS is the elites.
Yes.
You know, you can argue the point either way because there's definitely sticks that fish the FLW that came over to BASS and they competed just fine. They even won. You know, Jacob Wheeler started in FLW. You know, and so, but you're right. There's it's hard to argue that point.
So here's another. This was going to be another topic for the day, and I just want to hear your opinion because I have talked to a couple people about this. When Major League Fishing started Major League Fishing, you know, like 60, 65 anglers left Bass to go to Major League Fishing, and then some left FLW to go to Major League Fishing too that were invited. But
yep.
We've seen a new crop of anglers winning on the elites that never remotely had a chance at winning when those Major League Fishing anglers were there. That's the truth. As they might not, some of these guys might not like to hear that, and this is not against anybody. There's really no disrespect. But there's been a few guys that have won that never even remotely came close to winning, and now have won tournaments because these 65 anglers, 80 anglers left.
Yes,
I should get my notes out because there's a question in here. Hold on.
Well, you've put a thought in my head, which I think kind of supports your theory too about the elites, the elites that left BASS to go to MLF. We've got 4 key guys that have returned to the elites now. And what are they doing since they showed up?
They've dominated.
Complete and total domination.
They have.
You know, there's a reason for that. So,
yeah. My question is,
very interesting.
If MLF didn't exist, would some of these guys actually win? Because, I mean, they'd be going against, you know, the Kevin Van Dams, the Jacob Wheelers, the Edwin Evers, the Ott Foes. These guys, they'd be going against Jordan Lee. I mean, Jordan Lee won 2 classics. He's no slouch by any means. But then there's some other guys. So there's some of the guys from that came down from Canada. I don't know their names right off the top of I don't know their names, but they're all the. I'm not saying this isn't taking away from anybody who's on the elites that are fantastic anglers. They'll kill me any day. But I mean, would some of these guys
Yeah,
actually win?
I don't think so. I agree with you. I think I don't know how many there are in this group, but there is a pretty good number of anglers that they could not, they just couldn't hang with the big dogs that left the elites and went over to MLF. I mean, that is a
Johnson
real
brothers.
true statement.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely true
It's
statement.
funny because I had a conversation with I was going to invite somebody on the show and I think this person will probably be our first guest and I'll talk to you later about it so it's not out here.
Okay.
But he and I talked about it for like 2 hours one day, and it was like really it's nothing against the lead anglers, but when you invite Scott Canterbury from FLW who is a fantastic angler. Scott
Yep.
Canterbury can flat out fish. But you invite him from FLW, and the first year he comes into the elites, and these are the elites, and he kicks everybody's ass and becomes Angler of the Year. I'm like, what is going on here? How is this possible? How did this guy, no offense
Yeah.
to him, how did
Yeah.
this guy win?
Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
there- okay, so I'll tell a story about Scott Canterbury. So Palatka was his first event, I don't even know, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So Scott had a great first day, and he came off the stage, and Mercer was giving me a hard time because he was not happy with me saying how much I thought Bass was in trouble. I don't, who cares about that? But Scott came off the stage, and I'm like, hey, dude, I want to, I kind of raised my hand at my friends and kind of, hey, do you got 5 minutes to give me? That's kind of how it works. So Scott
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
over and sat down, stood in front of me and started talking to me. And I'm filming him, asking him questions, how the day went, blah, blah, blah. And then he walked away and I'm like, hey, give him a high five or whatever, fist bump, whatever. Good luck tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves. And then the Bass comes to me instantly and says, hey, you can't use that video. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I can't use this video? Scott had went on stage and had an FLW logo instead of his elite logo on, and they were like, you can use it, but you got to blur out the FLW. And I'm like, are you joking me? And
Wow.
they were I wouldn't say they were furious, but they were like, dude, you wore the wrong jersey on stage, we can't have that, blah blah blah. And I assume he changed the
Yeah.
next day, but it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, that is funny. There are probably guys who don't know this, but if you fish the BASS Opens, same thing. They make you wear something with a BASS logo on it, and if you don't have it, they give you the logos to pin onto your shirt.
Or
They're
or
very
black
picky
tape them
about
out.
that. Or yeah. So that's interesting.
I've seen anglers, I can't say their names, that have, just as before they go on stage, they look down at their shirt and then they make sure that they know who all their sponsors are. And then they've actually went, oh my gosh, that guy didn't pay me. Take black tape and black tape it out before walking on stage because they didn't want that person to get any credit or because they didn't pay their retainer fee for the month.
Hey, life's tough, man. Life's tough. But
Yeah.
I do, back to your point there, I've fished with these opens anglers that got bids to the elites. And, I got to know them and got to kind of see their body of work. And, any one of these guys got a shot of winning. They can compete and win against anybody, but the odds are still pretty greatly stacked against them to be able to consistently win against the big sticks like the Hackneys of the world, the Poliniks, these guys, the Otdefos, that they're just on a different level. They quite frankly are.
It's there's a when you really look at the statistics and you start looking at professional fishermen, there's a really humongous gap between that top 10 guys who are always in the checks and that next level. Now, that has nothing to do with their fishing. It's that they know they're able to change the pace of what they're doing and make good thought and changes immediately to start catching fish.
Yeah, this would be a really interesting topic because what is the secret sauce that separates these dudes from the rest of the group?
Yeah. That's one we'll leave that one for another one of our topics. Maybe that's the best way to do that.
For sure.
Yeah. There's been lots of comments. I've been trying to go through it. I'm trying to put everyone's comments up. So before I do that, everyone make sure you go to Mr. Bass's channel. We need to remind this. Next week we'll be on Mr. Bass's channel. Go there, subscribe, like, comment, click the notification button, do all that stuff, and become part of his team too while you're part over here. Make sure you give this a thumbs up and all that other good stuff too. Okay, so we kind of agreed on a majority of our top 10s. I think everyone kind of agreed on it too. So, I like this, to be honest. I could talk about this for 2 hours.
Yeah. It's a fun topic. Another fun topic might be, all right, let's put aside anybody who's not actively competing today. And then let's talk about who are the top 10 or the top 15, whatever, that are actively competing today, whether it's on the BASS, Major League Fishing. I guess you could even talk about the NPFL if you wanted to. But that would also be an interesting topic just to kind of talk about, of the sticks that are really actively competing today, who really are the top 10? Who are the 10 best? That would be fun to talk about.
Well, I think you got to have Kevin Van Dam in there for sure.
For sure.
I mean,
and we know Jacob Wheeler's definitely got to be in there.
Edwin Evers.
Edwin Evers could definitely qualify.
Aaron Martins.
Polinick's been winning a lot.
Brandon Polinick for sure. I mean, Jason Christie, to be honest.
Yeah, Jason Christie's been out, and Hackney as well. They all could qualify there.
I think John Cox might make the top 10 or 15.
John Cox is amazing. He is amazing. He really, yes, there's no question he could definitely be in. Oh man, there's another guy's face I can see that absolutely should be in that.
John Cox was 18 months in a row as the number one angler in the world. 18 consecutive months.
Amazing.
Does Scott Martin, Jordan Lee?
Yeah, that's another one that they both could probably be in that conversation. How can you go against him? Scott Martin, he had to grind his way back into the BASS side, and that's another indicator, I think, of the level of competition on the elite since this 65 guys left, because several guys have been able to do this. And not to take anything away from Scott Martin, we all know what an amazing stick he is, but there's 65 guys that he didn't have to compete against to qualify for the elites. And if I were him, I'd be like, hallelujah, boy. And it was a hard, he's got an amazing YouTube channel, and he documented the whole process, and it was not easy by any means, but just think how much more difficult it would be went to the elites, don't you think?
Yeah, I think getting to the elites is one of the hardest things you can do, because if we look at it, last year, Jacob Prosnick is a absolute fantastic angler. He didn't make it to the elites. Brian Latimer didn't do it.
Right.
Todd Castledine. there were a bunch of guys that left, decided not to, when MLF bought FLW, that they didn't want anything part of that, and they went to the opens, did their best, killed it, and still didn't qualify. And now they have to attempt to re-qualify. And really, you only have 3 tournaments to make it in the opens. You have one bad tournament in an open, and you can kiss that berth to an elite goodbye. It's either you're on fire that week or you're not, or you don't make it, and it means you have to wait another year. And that's when things get insane. I mean, honestly, the Central Opens last year were the most competitive fishing in the country. I'm not they were more competitive than the MLF. They were more competitive than the elites, because the names that were in there were huge names to qualify. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, you've nailed it on the head. It's absolutely true.
So Booster said Bass Fan rankings have Wheeler number 1, Justin Lucas number 2, and he's a great angler. Palaniuk 3, Jordan Lee 4, Ottafo 5, Andy Morgan 6, John Cox, my boy 7, Patrick Walters 8th, Seth Feeder 9th, and Mark Daniels Jr., who I don't even think he gets the credit he deserves. He kind of just sneaks in there for a paycheck every time. He's in the top 20 every tournament. I mean, him and Dustin Connell and Jacob Wheeler together, when the 3 of those guys are together, those 3 guys might be the smartest 3 guys to room together and also fish together.
Yeah, that's true. They hang around. I mean, that's if I'm fishing in Major League Fishing, I'm gonna be, Jacob, where do we room together?
Yeah.
Where can I, can I shine your shoes? What can I do? I need to hang out with you, man, because that's an amazing, very strategic, very strategic. I'm all about that. I think it's very, very smart to get him as someone to hang out with.
Okay, so one of
your fishing buddies.
I'm not gonna say the 2 anglers, because I do not want to get in trouble. But there was a rumor that 2 really good anglers started rooming together because they wanted to not help each other, but one of them was doing much better than the other, and the other one's like, "Look, I can start learning from this guy, and this is only going to help my fishing thing." And that's why the 2 of them roomed together. I'll tell you off the air who it is, but I don't want to say it on here. But that does happen. And with Wheeler and Connell and Daniels, they get a house together, and they all split it 3 ways. I think they might even have 4 people that goes in with them, and then they split it 4 ways. It makes it cuts down on all their expenses for that, and it really does help to be able to bounce. I know they can't technically talk shop about what's going on, but they're talking for sure. There's some talking going on.
Absolutely. I think that's there is some strategy there. I think very few pros, I think, just completely isolate themselves and try to figure everything out on their own.
Yeah,
that's just not smart. That's not a smart strategy at all.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get help, but you can get help. There's a gray area to that whole thing.
For sure.
For
sure.
Okay.
I'm still flipping through. I'm flipping through the names of anglers at the moment because there's one guy on the tip of my tongue that I absolutely think needs to be in the top 10 list, and we haven't said his name yet. Man, I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank. But the guys who watch my channel are used to me doing this.
We talked Hackney, Defoe, Edwin Evers, Christy Cox, Jordan Lee, Patrick Walters, Defoe. Yeah. Shannon said, I don't see anything wrong with some talking. You're technically, like, I've been on the boat with Kevin Van Dam during a practice day, and I saw a giant bass. I mean, a giant bass. I mean, one of the biggest basses I've ever seen. And I said, "Oh my God, do you see that one on the bed?" He turned around to me and said, "Steve, you can't point out where fish are. It's against the rules. So whatever you see and you tell me, I can't do anything about. So please don't do that." And, we talked about the
Yeah.
weirdest place that he autographed a person after that.
Yeah, Paul and Nick did the same thing to me one time when I was a marshal. He's like, you cannot tell me.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me
Bobby Lane.
anything. Yeah,
He's been killing it lately.
The Lane brothers are all.
Another second place.
He has been killing it lately. I know it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
Well, dang, I can't find it. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. That was definitely a fun topic.
Here is my next topic for you. So I watched a video just last night. Now, I should preface, I don't really watch Guggen Squad stuff. But if I'm going to watch one of them, I'm going to watch John B's stuff. I don't know if he just seems really creative. And for whatever reason, I'm not a subscriber, but I think he does very good. I think he does brilliant work. I should say that. But last night's video has me completely dumbfounded. I had a hard time today. I thought about this for probably 4 or 5 hours. You texted me, and I was working on I was working on a video for iCast for Tackle Webs, and it was at that point in time, it was all I had thought about from when I woke up to when you and I texted. This is how my brain works. He went out and bought the Manifold De Niro Yugo Frame 550 glide bait, the almost 22-inch, 2.7 pound leather, $1,150 swim bait.
And that's horsehide leather, by the way.
Yes. Thank you. So my first question to you is, why in the world would anyone in the United States and bass fishing even remotely purchase an $1,150 bait? If I said to you, Mr. Bass, I'm going to give you $1,150, would you go buy that lure?
Well, I got so many other things I would rather buy first. No, there's no way I'd do that. I mean, that's total insanity, and that's all there is to it. And like you said, this thing is almost 22 inches long and weighs 43 ounces, 2.5 pounds. How are you even going to cast? You've got to buy a whole new setup just to cast the thing. And jeez, it's mind blowing. But hey, to each his own. I think it would be great to have as a YouTuber because you could make some great videos with it. But I'm not going to spend $1,150 for a swim bait. I mean, it's insane. And not only that, a leather swim bait at that. I'm like, leather?
Okay.
That's crazy.
I will say right off the bat, if you have not seen this video or watched this bait in the water, you're going to be really surprised to start off with. I mean, it is exceptional. But
yeah, so it's not a gimmick bait, right?
Say that again.
That they've made this lure to be a real bait, a real lure that you would use to fish with.
Yeah, it's got like 8 different places to put a treble hook. It's got one on the side of the face here, all up and down its head. It's got 6 or 8 treble hook places.
Could you have the ability to show this thing on screen by
Oh,
chance?
you want to know what? I probably can. Hold on. Keep talking.
Yeah, it's humongous. It's got all of these hook point. Let me tell you some of the things it says about the leather exterior. The leather exterior does not get colder in the water like a traditional plastic lure does, which ensures the bait has a warmer body temperature and a similar texture to a living bait fish for a more natural presentation. As the leather progresses, the surface foil becomes weathered and becomes more like a wounded or weak bait fish as well. So they're saying this leather exterior actually makes it look more lifelike, more realistic.
Okay, I'm
The
officially
thing
putting.
is when you've got a 20 the thing is when you've got a 22-inch bait, the you probably ought to go fish for muskie or something with the thing. Not to say, hey, I've fished bass for years. I know a bass will go after anything it thinks it can actually successfully eat. But yeah, there's a picture of that thing.
I'm gonna. I don't know why I didn't cover the whole page, but this is it.
Look at this. Holy cow.
So I don't know if you can. Oh, you can't see where my thing is. This is obscene.
It is.
I mean, that's not. So, didn't you? Can you? When we were before we went on, can you read the people's comments from the tackle warehouse for me, please? Because I thought that was the best thing you said in the
Yeah.
pre-show.
Yeah, there's only 2 comments, but this first one's great. Bought this for the bass here in Minnesota. Had amazing action, but unfortunately lost it on the 4th cast. Oh man. 4 casts and $1,150 down the drain. Amazing. And then the other comment was in Japan last month and was able to see this thing in person. This thing is massive and it has a super wide S motion. It takes little to no effort to make this thing swim correctly. It does swim better when the leather is soaked in water. Definitely a cool bait, but I wouldn't have any use for this in the U.S.
So how many people just because, and I'm just speaking from myself. I don't know if you saw the. Oh yeah, I gave you first access to my video before I put it up. That bass I caught was probably 25, 26 and a half inches, give or take. Imagine what do you think a 26-inch bass is going to try to eat a 22-inch bait? I mean, am I crazy? If you can tell me seriously, dude, am I crazy? I mean, who's buying this?
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. You almost there's only about 3 places in the country you could fish it. Maybe Florida's one, because you get a double-digit bass might go after it.
I can't imagine I can't imagine a 2.5 pound bait. I have a hard time throwing those. I have a hard time throwing anything over a half ounce. I start getting freaked out.
You can't cast this thing, right? You'd almost have to like put it out and then
troll 6 miles away.
Troll 6 miles away and then reel it in.
Yeah, and
there's no way you can cast it.
It's
you could troll with it too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I have in my notes. They made this for. I should mention they made this for bass fishermen. They did not make this for saltwater fishermen. I think it could catch something saltwater, but you'd have to go marlin fishing.
Yeah.
and in that case, that bait isn't remotely. When you go offshore fishing, you're using a real big giant hook. Now these were really big hooks, and they had hooks all over. But you don't use a lot of treble hooks when you're marlin fishing or sail fishing or dolphin fishing. When you go king fishing, yes, you use a stinger. But when you go, this is made for bass. Really, it's made for Japanese bass. Are the Japanese bass that much bigger than the bass we have?
No.
I
mean that it says it comes with 4 premium Japanese Ryugi treble hooks. I wish I knew what size those hooks were.
I think they were
It doesn't
eights.
tell you. Really?
Booster says
Interesting.
they found a 6-pound bass with a 4-pound bass in its mouth floating in Lake Guerrero, Mexico. He said he's going to try.
I have seen videos of a bass hit
Like-
another bass almost the same size as it, and I think it has to do with just the unique angle for that one split second. I'm sure it's an illusion, and the bass thinks the fish is smaller than it really is.
Yes, and then they choke.
Yeah, and then they choke on it.
Yeah. I just can't imagine a 10-pound bass even remotely thinking that it could eat. I mean, the bass I caught was pretty nice the other day. That's the God's honest truth. I can't imagine that bait being swallowed by that bass.
Okay, so I got the Depths 250 here, which I think is about 7 inches long. So 3 of these. So let's take 3 real quick, and I'll try to hold them together.
It's going to be out. Hold on. I'm going to take me off the screen. Hold on.
This is 21 inches. And that lure is 22 inches long, 21.65 inches long. It's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, to be honest. Yeah, that's it's ridiculous. But okay, would you buy that bait if it was $250?
Yes, I would.
You
I
would?
absolutely would. Yes.
Would you try to fish it?
I absolutely would try to fish it. Because it's one of those things that you're just like, holy cow, I've got to try that thing. If someone went to the trouble of making it, but I can't pay $1,200, $1,300 for a lure. That's a kayak.
I mean, that ain't chump change. That's
No,
I have a whole nother.
It's not.
I have a whole nother slogan I would say, but I'm going to keep it family friendly. But I mean, have you caught a bass over 22 inches?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people that you get in the northern states that haven't.
The world record, I think, is only 23 inches.
Patrick caught one at 26.5 years ago. I think that's the world record, or 27.5 on Okeechobee years ago. Because my buddy Patrick, had 270 world records at one time.
Really?
I don't know if it still stands.
Patrick did?
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. 10 biggest largemouth world records. Yeah, I would think 26 sounds right. The only reason I thought 23 is I saw a thing the other day where they said 23. I thought that was short. That was really short to me, but all right, 10 biggest, 22 pounds, 4 ounces. It doesn't say the...
Yeah, though you got to go to the length. Patrick actually caught one in his pond last year.
That's what I was thinking. 23 pounds. 23 pounds is the world record.
Yeah. Inches wide. Last year, Patrick caught one at 28.5. But there was no way he was going to get it certified. Not to mention, we didn't want anyone knowing that we caught it in his pond. But we thought the fish went 15 or 16 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So I watched this video, and he did a great job, but I just kept thinking,
watch it.
I just kept thinking how crazy it was, and then when he went out to cast it, he was in his boat and he had to like drop it off and then go 40 or 50 feet away with his trolling motor and then twitch it.
Yeah.
So it
and
was
the problem with that is you almost would have to go out and then go in a circle so that you're retrieving it in a different direction that you didn't just drive over with your boat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I kind of think it's gimmicky. That's the truth. I can understand someone
Oh,
wanting it.
it absolutely is gimmicky. But when you spend that much money for a gimmick, you kind of take it seriously.
Well, I mean, how many lures have you ever seen with leather? I've never seen a leather lure.
I've never seen a leather lure, and I thought it was completely hokey frog fur, complete frog fur, until I start reading the fact that it does kind of make sense that this leather does look like scales,
It
a
does.
scale pattern on it, and you could see how, especially as if you could get fish to start chewing on it, it's gonna. I bet in the water it does look more lifelike than a regular plastic ABS plastic sort of lure.
But then when you look at the tail, because I have it on the screen right now, they had to staple it at the bottom. So how many fish do we have that have staples all over it?
Yeah, true.
Hold on, I'm going to grab something.
That's a good point.
I'm going to grab something.
I wonder how lifelike the tail really looks in the water. On that video, did he show like any underwater footage of it moving in the water or anything?
No, that would take too much time. He didn't do any of that. So I buy one of these every year. Actually, I don't buy it. I buy one for Ken, and Ken buys one for me. But if you look at this, it's kind of gimmicky. But that is a coral
Like
snake.
a devil horse?
Coral snake skin on a custom lure. So in this case, this is a diamondback or a rattlesnake.
Oh.
So I don't know if that looks, I don't know how that's.
Yeah, you can definitely see it. Looks good.
So this guy finds these snakes dead, skins them, then puts them on a lure. So every year at the antique lure show, I buy Ken Duke one, and he buys me. And these are the two ones, because we're both scared. We're both real big babies about snakes. And that's what it is. And I don't know if he's on here. Jeff Hammer, you should see the size of the snakes at this guy's house. I won't go to Jeff's house. He has that big of snakes around his house.
Well, you guys have the old pythons down there, don't you?
Yeah, you get down towards the Everglades. Yeah, but I mean, no, Jeff had a couple diamondback rattlesnakes last year that probably went 4 or 5 foot. I mean, they were absolute pigs. I mean, they were giants. And I actually think, if I remember correctly, I should text him. I think his daughter got bit by one years ago. So he really knows, what's going on with them. So Tim Booster sent me an email of a bass, a 10-pound bass with a tilapia in its face. I'm just going to show the camera. Not a very good picture, but that's ridiculous. When I saw the video, I was more or less like, first off, first it said most expensive lure, and I'm thinking, I didn't even see the video, and I went, did he buy that $1,100 video on Tackle Warehouse? Because I get this thing from Tackle Warehouse every month that says, here's the new stuff, blah blah blah. Here's the stuff here's the stuff we think you could fish. Here's what's going on, blah blah blah. I don't want to go through my whole theory. And that was one of the lures that was sent. And I'm like,
it's crazy. But I do firmly believe that if you fish that lure long enough, you would eventually get bit on it. But it's one of those deals where who knows how long you'd have to fish it before you got bit.
In John's video, one of the things he says is most of the time the bass doesn't get bit. That bait doesn't get bit, but because it's got so many places for treble hooks, that bass are curious about what it is. So they'll come up and nose it, and that's when they hook it.
Yeah. I believe that. It's probably amazing.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about snakes, and we're not talking snakes, guys. I don't want to talk snakes. I appreciate these snake lures, these custom lures. It's funny because every year when Ken and I buy these. Every year we go, did you use yours yet? And it's like, no way. We're scared to use them because they're custom. It's a beautiful lure.
It is a beautiful lure.
It just,
that one in particular is really cool.
Yeah, this is I think this. I got that one right in the finger. It's got good hooks.
Been there, done that.
That's a good looking one. That's a coral snake, I think. Wait a minute, red and yellow kill a fellow. No, yeah, this is the red and yellow kill a fellow. Red and black, you'll be back. See the red and yellow match. This is the one you wouldn't want to run into.
That's a good deal. Red and yellow kill a fellow. I got to remember that.
Yeah, that's how we remember it down here. And you don't ever see those snakes, those coral snakes. You don't. It's very. I've only seen one time, and it was in a Gulf, like the hole. As I lifted up the flag, the snake was in the hole, and I was like, "Okay, man. Dad, we're done for the day. We're done for the day."
That's funny.
Okay, Hammer says, those snakeskin lures will attract other snakes. Better give them to me for your safety. Hammer's allowed to have them. Hammer's allowed to have anything
smart.
I have.
Yeah, that's one smart dude right there.
Hammer has a great business called Hammer Tech Marine. He does all these great marine saltwater CNC machined stuff for boats. Jeff is a crazy smart person, and he's a really good angler. I actually think he's a better angler than me. He won't admit that, but I think Jeff's a better angler than me.
Interesting.
So, okay, let me move these snake lures so I don't get snagged by them. Next, we got to say congratulations to Atafo. Won today's Major League Fishing on Harris Chain. One in my backyard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the best guys in the world, and couldn't be happier for him.
The one thing I wish Major League Fishing did, maybe I'm the only one that has this problem, for me, it's so hard to keep track of, you'll get a notice that says so-and-so won this or so-and-so won that, and you're like, all right, what is that, a real tournament, or is that just a stage in one of the tournaments for him to get to the final? I wish they would just say the Bass Pro Tour elite event, whatever they want to call it, on the Harris Chain Lake, that champion. But the way they describe their winners, it's always like, okay, did he really win the tournament? Is the tournament done, or has he won one of the stages in the tournament to get to the next stage to compete to the? It's just like, geez Louise. Just tell us, tournament winner or not,
They have the one thing Major League Fishing does better than really almost everybody, the elites do it really well too. They send out a press release pretty much twice a day. I mean, I'm not joking. When they start the tournament, you get a press release. When they finish the day, you get a press release. And in my opinion, one of the things that's holding Major League Fishing back is there's just too many complicating things that go on in the tournament. And that's the one thing that even as somebody who watches, I watch a lot of bass fishing. I watch a lot of fishing because I watch it because I know the guys and I want to keep up with how they're doing and that kind of stuff. But Major League Fishing is confusing for me.
It really is. I'm glad to hear that, because I don't want to. I'm hoping I'm not the only one. At least with the elites, all right, they're fishing Guntersville this week,
mm-hmm.
and then at the end, somebody's going to win Guntersville, and it's over. Congratulations, you're the champion.
Yeah, they show them with the trophy.
12 different stages to finally get to the championship. That stuff really gets confusing.
And really, it's the Group A, Group B, Group A, Group B, and then they take the top person from Group A and B, automatically go to the finals. Then they have a 2 days where those people are competing from 40 to 20 to 10, and it's so convoluted and jumbled up that you're like, what? I agree with you. There's times when I read it and go, I've actually, I hate to say this, I sent somebody a text saying, congratulations on your win. And they sent me a thing back saying, oh, hey, Steve, thank you. You should know I have one more day of fishing left. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I thought you won the tournament. And you know, it's one of those weird things. Jeff Jeter says, even their
I'm glad
website
it's not
confuses
just
me. They have so many tournaments now that they purchase FLW. There's a Toyota series. There's the Big Five. There's so many tournaments under the umbrella of Major League Fishing that it's almost ridiculous at times.
I agree. I really do.
You know, Texas Huntman said Major League Fishing is my favorite format. They are smoother than what they started, but they still got kinks to work out. You're right. They had
I think they're fun to watch. I definitely, I like to watch them and I'm pulling for them, but I guess I don't watch it enough to filter out all the confusion for me because it's still really confusing.
If you had your choice to watch Major League Fishing or Bass Elites, which one would you watch?
Elites.
You would?
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
I guess just because I've gotten more history with the Elites. And I will say that until the guys jumped from the Elites to Major League Fishing, that the MLF TV coverage was way better than BASS. Mm-hmm. BASS television coverage just wasn't very good at all, and they've really upped their game, in an effort to compete. And since they've done that, I really like watching the Elite guys. They've got camera boats. I mean, that camera's in just about all their boats, and I think they're fun to watch.
Have you watched it on Fox Sports yet?
I don't know.
That would be this year.
Yeah, I watch it online. Yeah. So,
I mean, Major League Fishing is it's a television series. That's what it's made for. That's what it was designed for. And they had a lot of people that just don't like what they're doing because, I mean, I'm like you. I have always been a Bass Elite person. I still think Bass is king. I mean, I'm a statistic fan. Statistically, Bass beats Major League Fishing month in and month out. I mean, I know Major League Fishing is going to throw some bullshit lineup, that says that they got 82 million views. That is not true. But Bass has always been, last year Bass got a huge kick because of ESPN. I'll be the first one to say, I think moving to FS1, while they blew it up and made it seem like this great thing, it doesn't even rank on FS1, and that stinks.
Yeah. That does stink. I feel like one thing that Major League Fishing has done is they've tried to change some of their tournament coverage to appeal to people who they're trying. I think they're trying to capture a broader audience, so they're editing their footage in a way that, to me, is less interesting than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys mentioned to me in one of the comments a couple of weeks ago that, look, go online and watch the online coverage, and you can get more of the older MLF style where you can actually watch a lot of the fishing and you can see the techniques more and the baits they're using and that kind of stuff. I like that better than just trimming it down to see who's going to win. I like to, and that's what I always liked about the Major League Fishing format is you got to see how they were really fishing and what techniques they were fishing compared to another fisherman, and see them compete against those fishermen. And that was very entertaining and exciting. And it seems like it's kind of gotten away from that. They still show it some, but not nearly as much as they used to. And I think it's because they're trying to appeal to people who've never watched fishing before.
Mm-hmm.
where I want to see all the details. I want to see the
Me
nitty
too.
gritty details, and so
Texas
that's
Sun's
why.
wrote, you know what's not fun? Not fun? Looking at the top of everyone's ball cap because they have their faces buried in the stupid live scope. Outlaw that thing on tournament day. I hate to say this, I agree with him.
Yeah,
I agree with him.
yeah.
There's too much of
I
this
think a
now.
lot of people. I know. I think a lot of people agree with him, and I don't disagree. I think it's kind of taking it's kind of taking some of the sport out of the sport.
Yeah. I'm going to throw something out that probably isn't going to be very, that people aren't going to like. I think that this is like a bold prediction, I guess is the best way to put it. You had Lunkers TV, Rob Turkla, who decided to jump into the whole professional bass fishing thing, which I think is
Yep.
completely crazy. Because if you don't need to do it, don't do it. It's just a waste of money overall. I mean, unless you hit it big, you're barely gonna break even in most cases. But I'm gonna tell you what I think. From what I've heard, there's been he's went and had somebody teach him how to read his forward facing sonar, who is the best in the industry. And he's going to come down here to Florida, and he's finally realized that grass is king down here. And I think he's going to come down here for the NPFL, and I think he's going to have a good tournament. But the problem is he's going to have to face guys like Jeff Fritz and Keith Carson and a whole bunch of people like that are studs on the Harris chain. And that was a question I was going to ask you. NPFL comes into town, I think, next week. How many of those guys do you think watched Major League Fishing this weekend on the Harris chain since NPFL's coming to the Harris chain?
Well, I talked to one personally who told me he was absolutely going to watch every minute of that stuff for that very reason. I'd do it if I were fishing NPFL. I would have watched every second of it.
Yeah, I know the Harris chain's kind of like my place, but
Hmm.
I agree with you completely. If it were me, I would have overly critiqued every second of that tournament. And I'm not joking.
No,
Every second. I might not listen to most of the announcers, but I mean, I would have watched if you didn't know how good a stealth blade was, and then you had Brett Hite who finished in the top 10, who absolutely put on a clinic for 2 days. And all he did was use a stealth blade with a trailer. Because he knew that the pressured
yeah,
fish would go after it.
yeah,
It would I would have watched every second of it. I'm with you completely. I would have been like, I would have been marking down things. Oh, this guy's fishing 100 feet off this point. That's how detailed I would be doing it. So hopefully they do.
it it will be interesting to see how those guys do.
We should really do a show just about electronics and how it's
Yes.
changed the game of fishing.
Oh my goodness, it has changed things so much just in the last 5 years. It's insane how much it's changed.
And it's not cheap either.
No, it's insanely expensive.
That's one of the things on the NPFL. There's certain guys that have forward facing sonar, and a majority of the other guys don't have it because they can't afford it. I mean, they're
Yeah,
putting
well,
out
you
30
spend
grand.
Garmin. Well, even like an average guy like me, let's say I want to go out and I want Garmin Panoptics. I pay $1,500 for Garmin Panoptics, and I've got nothing to connect it to.
Yes.
It's just the device that goes in the water. Then you've got to go buy a unit that's compatible with it and connect it with it. I mean, it's a ton of money.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little detail in the grand scheme of things, and it's almost crazy to think how much. I mean, a bass boat's already expensive as hell, but then you got to spend $15,000-$20,000 on
It is. Yeah.
electronics. I mean, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Yes, yeah, I know. And the percentage of tournaments that are won with that stuff, I mean, unless it's an offshore tournament, is it even still worth it to have it? I don't know. I
I
don't
think
know
these days you have
it
to have
well
it.
enough to know. Yeah, I do too. I think if you're going to compete at the elite level, you've got to have it. Um, but do they really use it in really shallow conditions?
I mean, I can tell you. So my buddy, his name is Eric Howard. He has H&H Rods and Reels. He's a crappie fisherman. I can tell you that that Panoptics and that forward-facing sonar has completely changed how anglers fish in crappie fishing tournaments.
Crappie. Absolutely. I know it. I've
So
been watching that. And you're right, man. All they do is look for brush piles,
yep,
and they come up to the brush pile and point that Panoptics right in the brush pile, and they're like, "There he is!" Drop it right on his head.
I think
And there's the biggest one. There's the biggest one. There's three little ones, and there's the big one right there. I'm going to drop over on the big one
I
and
think
pull him
one of
out.
the things for here at Toho at the Major League Heavy Hitters, Alton Jones point blank said it. He said, "All I was doing was riding around looking for fish on my forward facing sonar. I didn't cast until I saw a fish." And
Yeah,
I think he won or something like that.
he did win.
So Hank Snow says John Cox has done pretty good without it. I should say John Cox does have it on his boat these days. He is not he does have electronics now. Now he doesn't use them a lot, but he has had to start to make that change because if you don't have it, you're SOL'd. So
It's true.
everyone is just enjoying, the thing. I only use my side by side for crappie.
Guess what? The name came to me of the tournament
Who
angler
was
that I
it?
think needs to be in the top 10. Brian Thrift.
Oh God, yes. How good is that dude?
He absolutely it should be considered
He
in the
should
top
be.
10 of current day anglers.
I was
He's another John Cox.
I'm going to be honest. I was disappointed that he went to Major League Fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was too.
I was disappointed
But
David Dudley went too.
I know I was as well. But I
It's about that cheddar.
it's the new real deal. Major League Fishing is not a trend or a fad that's going to go away.
Yeah,
They're here to stay.
they are here to stay. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. I want everyone to make sure you go to Mr. Bass's channel, subscribe, like, comment, click the notification bell so you know next weekend when we do this live again on Wednesday, it is at his place, so you'll get that notification to tell you that we are here. I don't know what our
Right
topic is
on.
going to be, but I think we've kind of touched on a few things that maybe we can talk about a little bit more. But
Yep.
what before we leave, what do you have anything planned in the next week? Any videos you got coming
Um,
up?
Well, it's a Memorial Day weekend, and I am fishing a kayak tournament.
Oh,
It's a Missouri kayak tournament. Uh, it's basically 4 days over for the Memorial Day weekend, so that should be fun.
good luck with that.
Thank you.
I am going back to the private pond tomorrow morning where those two fish. I
Gonna
don't
go
think.
catch you another lunker.
Hopefully, I will. I will say if I can get that first one to go, I would be very, very, very happy. But we will see. I'll be honest. Tomorrow, I'm going to be throwing a bait that Topwater Johnny gave me, and I'm going to throw a stealth blade tomorrow. And I'll have a worm
Nice.
I'll have a worm with me too because
I I've not thrown the stealth blade yet. I am a huge bladed jig guy. I mean, I throw it almost every time I go fishing for some part of the day. But I didn't even buy a stealth blade. You sent me one, so
Mhm.
I've got one now, and I am gonna go throw it.
so it doesn't
But
make any noise.
to me, I thought it was okay. This is just another way to try to sell more jackhammers because clear blade versus the other blade. Yeah, I granted clear blade you can't see. Brett Height sold me on it now, so
So
I'm definitely gonna start throwing that thing.
I think you'll notice it starts faster than the jackhammer. It has a faster starter, but
Okay.
it doesn't make that noise. Really, it's the thumping action that irritates the bass on that lateral line, and that's why most of the time you're going to get strikes that they're not hungry strikes. They're just reaction strikes because they get so upset by that vibration.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I honestly believe when you use it, you might find yourself thinking it's better than the jackhammer.
Well, hey, I'm all for something that works better than the jackhammer, dude, because that is a killer bait.
That bait is just ridiculous.
I know. It's insane.
So, well, good luck to that. Like I said, I don't know how we'll do tomorrow. It's been like 110 degrees down here right now, and we haven't had any rain, so it's going to be a hot morning. But we only fish for a couple hours. Johnny gets there at 5:30. I make breakfast at 6:30 here, so then I run over there. So I only get an hour and a half or so. So I'm hoping I can get that one. He already told me he bought the lure that I got, the 3D, the Savage Gear 3D bluegill. He's like, I'm using that bait all day tomorrow. I'm like, okay. He was right there. That bait, that fish that missed it was bigger than the fish I caught, which is scary. Because that was a pretty nice chunk that I caught.
It looks like it's just got great action.
Yeah. So, okay, everyone go to his channel. Make sure you like this. But we'll be back next Wednesday. So, of course, thank you. Any last things? Oh, let me give a plug for you. When's Saturday night? Saturday Night Live. A new graphic for the Saturday Night Live Mr. Bass live show. I don't know who did it, but he was a genius.
It's beautiful. There's this guy called Steve Chapman, man. He makes some amazing graphics, and he made it for me, and it's looking sweet.
So you have that Saturday. What time?
Same time as this show, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, and usually lasts 2 hours. And we do a lot of fishing talk, and then of course I give away some lures and tackle and stuff, and that's always fun. So yeah, join me. Love to have you on the channel.
Make sure you go there. So everyone, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, next Wednesday, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. And remember to do a few things. Take a kid fishing, get your fish on, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
See ya.